And I remember even a book on Darwin, on Charles Darwin, and Albert Einstein. While making staccato forays into the rare field world of Plato, Aristotle, and back to this region, Confucius. He was quite instrumental in the organization of this great conference that I initiated, Islam and Confucianism, many years back, bringing this intellectual, this great scholar, neo-Confucianist scholar, Professor Tu Wei Ming, who was then at Harvard and now at Beijing University. It is more pertinent here, relevant here, to organize a discussion on Islam and Confucianism, because in all our experience, it's always been Islam and Christianity, Islam and the West. So, and he has published, and incidentally, Tu Wei Ming made reference to this in his, in the article he wrote in the book, published and edited by Osman, that as a neo-Confucianist scholar, his understanding of Islam, the universal message of Islam, the core fundamental issues addressed by Islam and Confucianism, is only after that exposure and experience in the attending that conference, Islam and Confucianism. Now, 25 years ago, unlike Osman, who was very prolific, I always mention the Asian Renaissance. I wrote that in the encounter between the civilizations of the East and the West, generations of intelligentsia from the East, the Muslims and the Hindus and the Confucianists, were caught in a predicament profound and far-reaching. Whether to remain faithful to one's traditions or to renounce them for a way of life perceived as superior. Lo and behold, indeed, Osman shows that you could well have the best of both worlds. And that is precisely because he has followed the footsteps of the great masters of learning and the erudition of the golden age of Islam. While Osman is of Asia and the Muslim world, his scholarship, as manifested in his voluminous intellectual output, transcends it, even as he draws inspiration, drinking from the wells of knowledge and wisdom from the likes of Ibn Sina, Ibn Rushd, and Al-Farabi. And we trace the long and winding road of Osman's civilization and quest for synthesis. One defining feature emerges. It's nothing less than a journey, than a Tawhidic-centric journey. The unity of all knowledge, philosophical and scientific, and based on values and ethics. For Osman, it is an odyssey that takes him from merely the specific concerns of the philosophy of science to a broader, more universal imperatives of civilizational crisis. Must societal reform precede civilizational renewal? Or is the latter the sine qua non for Islah and Tajdeed? This was the question I had to reflect before I crafted that Madani. Now, should we not first examine the readiness of the Ummah for the transformation to be effected? Are these mere academic questions, or do they provide the needed intellectual context for articulating the multidimensional character of reforms? Now, if I may state the proposition, intellectual inclusivity amidst an ocean of intellectual diversity and the art of synthesizing the multiplicity of worldviews. That is how I contextualize Professor Osman's works. By its very nature, it is an expanding, highly dynamic frame of incapable of compartmentalization, which I referred to earlier about Ortega y Gasset, the great Spanish philosopher, in his Revolt of the Masses, Rebellion de las Masas, where he referred to barbarism of specialization. You will not find it if you are back to fundamentals, the core of Islamic teachings, of Confucianist ethics. Then this notion of specialization, which has been the bulk of Western knowledge and science at present, will be addressed by this reference to universal understanding and the Madani concept. Osman has even revived the study of the Persian scholar Al-Biruni, which I have alluded to earlier, who engaged with Hinduism in the 11th century. And for Malaysia, it is so pertinent and relevant to understand why a great Muslim scholar interact and sat in front of Swamiji in the ashram just to learn about Hinduism, because he has to deal with the Hindus of India. Osman has ignited again the dialogue between Islam and Confucianism. Now, we are almost a quarter of the way into the century, and many have claimed this is to be the Asian century. But what does that actually mean? Well, I wouldn't be criticized if I suggest that I have the audacity to claim a small credit, but the due credit goes to Osman, because he made all the preparations, identified all the scholars, and got me to sign, like what Naqib Al-Attas did to me when he set up ISTEC. But all the same, we have seen that beginning, and I'm sure under this administration and Minister Khalid will pursue this issue, this policy or concept of civilizational dialogue, because it is so pertinent and relevant for the survival of Malaysia as a multi-ethnic and pluralistic country. So, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we have great we have the honor to understand and appreciate more the contributions of a great scholar, and some of my concerns, my views, my appreciations have been expressed in this book, brilliantly edited by Professor Khairuddin. I must also commend him for this effort, and not to forget the initial contribution of our brother Yaqub Mirza. Now, I made reference to this article or forward that Osman actually was so involved with the activism and da'wah and education, even not within the confines of the academia. When I set up a school for dropouts for the poor in Kebun Baru, Yayasan under academic, we have this leading scholar going down there with great patience, dealing with his students, given a second chance to pass, to go through their examinations. And you must understand Osman in that context. Coming from a very poor family, but beautiful parents who had that sort of understanding and wisdom without any degree. You talk to them and enjoy the companionship, and they understand what we mean by values and ethics without mentioning the word values or ethics, or possibly not even have heard of the word ethics, but the understanding and the appreciation of these principles is legendary. As for education itself, and this is a challenge to our Minister Khalid, we would do well to recall Neil Postman's reminder to be wary of the false gods of modern education, or Harry Lewis' excellence without a soul. I have a colleague from the university who said, well, at least we have a soul. Harvard has excellence but no soul. We have soul but no excellence. I'm not too sure, frankly. I think with humility, and the rectors here, it is better to admit a little soul and a little excellence. What we need is excellence and soul. Thus, while imparting technical and vocational skills, inculcation of economic utility and the pursuit of sciences, as well as the humanities in higher education, are all crucial elements for the advancement of society and the production of a functional and productive workforce, we must never forget that the primary rationale for public education is character development, is values and ethics. So it is relevant, Osman, what you have suggested, and of course endorsed by the foremost Muslim philosopher, thinker of the world, that the teaching of Islamic civilization at all levels of education is long overdue, including a thorough review of the curriculum content of the subject of Islamic civilization. I now pass it to Minister Khalid to continue the effort. Now, I just digress a bit because our discourse cannot deny the fact that there's so much misunderstanding and prejudice, in fact, enmity against any word. First, religion, and more important, Islam. And the recent blatant disregard for values and ethics and humanity is the burning of the Quran in Sweden. What do you want to prove? That you are secular, you are against Islam, or you are against religion? But what you actually portray is the degradation of man and values. So I mentioned to the foreign minister recently to call the Swedish ambassador and convey our feeling of disgust towards the, not necessarily complicity, but the tolerance of this. We in Malaysia will not tolerate not only the burning of the Quran, the burning of the Bible or the Hindu text, because we value humanity. We respect the right of every person in advancing their own faith and values. And we cannot say this unfreedom. freedom to exercise what is right, not freedom to kill, not freedom to dehumanize, not freedom to degrade. And this is, I think, important. We have expressed in the strongest terms. Of course, President Tayyip Erdogan seems to take the lead in this, and I certainly support his expression of disgust and condemnation, because for no reason you provoke the sentiments of the Ummah, for no reason, while we are trying to portray, educate our message, because we have problems too. We have this effort of a few, even within our societies. There's a tendency to incite racial hatred or to promote religious bigotry. We have that in the name of Islam. We have to deal with it. This is an internal challenge that we have. But these attempts, the cartoon and now the burning of the Quran, is merely an attempt to provoke, cause discord, and barbaric, to use the word. And I would appeal, of course, to Ms. Messers to continue their protests, to express their disgust, but also to accept it as a challenge. That we have then to honor our commitment. We protest the burning of the Quran. Yes, we must. But we must give our understanding and do our utmost to ensure that the message of the Quran is alive within us. So, terima kasih saudaraku Osman. Salam pada Badariah yang tak dapat hadir. Saya ingat satu majlis yang sangat istimewa kerana sedikit keuzuran, dan kepada keluarga beliau dan kepada sahabat-sahabat yang menjayakan, termasuk Khairuddin dan pihak ISTEC dan UIA yang memberi kerjasama. Saya ucapkan terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, moving on to the next agenda, the presentation of souvenir. Ladies and gentlemen, our heartiest appreciation to Yang Amat Berhormat, Datuk Seri Prime Minister, are books that symbolize ilmu or knowledge. It is stated in a quote that reading is a conversation. All books talk, but a good book listens as well. Thus, 3 books to accompany Datuk Seri from the university are, of course, the book launched today, Knowledge, Tradition and Civilazation, ESSAYS in honor of Professor Osman Bakar, together with the other 2 books from the university entitled Sejahtera Academic Framework, and another one, the newly launched Hikmah Toleransi, Falsafah Kepemurahan dan Keamanan. I now have the pleasure to invite Tan Sri President to present a token of appreciation to Yang Amat Berhormat Prime Minister. Thank you, sir. We are not finished yet, actually. We have another one. Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, Datuk Seri and the rest, please remain standing. We have another one. This is the one that we are waiting for. the gimmick for the book launching. Ladies and gentlemen, to mark the end of the ceremony, I would like now to call Yang Amat Berhormat Prime Minister to unveil a frame as a symbolic that the book is now ready for the public to read and benefit from. And in fact, we also have the counter for the book orders and selling outside the hall. Alhamdulillah, ladies and gentlemen.